That is an interesting fight. And you know why it's interesting? It's a dangerous fight for both guys. Number one. Very dangerous fight.
Now that David Benavidez and David Morrell's fight got confirmed, Teddy Atlas warned both the fighters to be aware and vigilant about their opponent David Benavidez and David Morrell are set to clash in what promises to be one of the most anticipated light heavyweight showdowns of 2024. Teddy Atlas highlighted that undefeated records and the immense talent of Benavidez and Morrell make this bout stand out. He emphasized that what makes this fight truly special is the risk both fighters are taking at this point in their careers, particularly Morrell, who is stepping up to face a dangerous opponent.
Both of them were terrific amateurs, undefeated as pros. I mean, Morrell comes from the legendary Cuban national team, in the Olympics, everything else. He won a world title in a short period of time, like only a few special fighters have,
Like Benavidez, Teddy Atlas continued to commend Benavidez, giving him and his father credit for taking on a dangerous fight against Morrell instead of waiting for a safer or more lucrative bout, such as a potential fight with Canelo Alvarez. The fight, scheduled for January 25th in Las Vegas, will headline a PBC pay-per-view event. Both fighters, previously top contenders at 168 lbs, have recently moved up to 175 lbs in pursuit of greater opportunities, after years of being overlooked for title shots against boxing's top star Canelo Alvarez.
And Benavidez, give him all the credit in the world. Like, goodness, him and his father. Give them credit that, they didn't get the Canelo fight. They're right in line for the winner of Bivol and Benavidez. And what do? They just sit around and, twiddle their thumbs or sit around and fight a soft touch? No, they take this. So I'm chomping at the...
Paulie Malignaggi noted that Benavidez was one of the few fighters at 168 lbs who could truly challenge Canelo Alvarez. He pointed out that there had been doubts about whether Benavidez would face tough competition, but now by taking on a dangerous fighter like Morrell, those questions were being answered.
Because the thing about Morrell, he's kind of the odd man out. He's way too good and way too dangerous with a low profile. He's a high-risk, low-reward fighter, unless you're a real boxing head and understands how good he really is. David Benavidez does. He understands that this is going to get him true clout with the people that really matter.
Paulie Malignaggi went on to discuss his view on the current state of boxing, criticizing how some fighters focus on protecting their undefeated record and brand rather than taking on tough competition. He suggested that these fighters who aim to stay on the top pound-for-pound lists by avoiding
and sting you and get out of there, but if he hurt you, he'll stay on your ass. This is the thing. He ain't seen nobody big as Benavidez. He ain't been in there with that. With that type of hand speed. Benavidez is not, skill-wise, not a lot better than him. It's not that. It's just, he's a fighter. He's a real fighter. Morrell, we don't know what kind of fight Morrell got in him because Morrell ain't been in it under nothing. You know what I mean?
Serious challenges only appeal to casual fans who don't fully understand the sport. He added, boxing is becoming like a pound-for-pound list A and a pound-for-pound list B. So the pound-for-pound list A is like the guys that protect their O's, the guys who protect their brand. Make sure they stay undefeated, and then they stay on the pound-for-pound list.
Well, like he said, if the people want it, let's go get it. And David Benavidez, it's really shocking to me because it's not like you haven't seen a ton of Dave Morrell's work. And you see his comment on Instagram saying that he reached out to Morrell's team. Well, that's what the great ones do. David Benavidez trying to build a legacy of his own without Canelo Alvarez. And I've said that many times repeatedly. Forget about the Canelo Alvarez fight. Canelo has built his legacy. Build your own.
And for most idiots, that'll be their pound-for-pound list. Paulie Malignaggi further emphasized the importance of the upcoming fight, praising both fighters for stepping up when they are at their peak. He pointed out that both fighters are able to continue the bout to build hype and avoid risk. Instead, they are both ready to face each other at their prime, making it a rare and significant.
Look at the landscape of 175 and PBC. There's not really that much guys at 175. So after this fight with me and Alexander, hopefully we get the unified fight for all the belts, 175, and then We'll probably come back down not come back down. That'll probably be the first defense. David Morrell. That's the fight I wanted.
The matchup in the sport, Benavidez unbeaten at 29-0 with 24 knockouts, has long been considered one of the most dangerous fighters in the super middleweight division. A two-time WBC super middleweight champion, he has been chasing a fight with Alvarez for years. But Alvarez has shown little interest in facing him, opting instead for challengers like Edgar Berlanga and Jaime Mong.
I want to fight the most dangerous fighters. I want to fight the best of the best because at the end of the day, bro, I'm here. I'm not going to waste my time and not, get the respect from the fans to fight the best of the best. I'm here to fight the best of the best. You know what I mean? I have something to prove to myself.
With limited options left at 168 lb, Benavidez made the jump to light heavyweight in June 2024, where he scored a unanimous decision victory over former light heavyweight champion Alexander Gick. Chris Algieri began by talking about what makes a true champion, explaining how fighters should conduct themselves inside and outside the ring.
For me, that's what makes this fight so special. Their talents, their undefeated records, what's at stake, right? All of that. But that they're taking a risk when a lot of the fighters wouldn't. They'd say, no, I'm going to wait for a bigger fight. I'm going to, not a bigger fight as far as danger, but a bigger fight as far as maybe a payday or, whatever it could be. But you got a guy like Morrell. Not all those kind of fighters at this stage of their career would go and take on a dangerous fight against a guy.
He highlighted that real champion move, talk, and behave in a way that reflects their readiness to take on the best challenges. Algieri compared Benavidez to Tim Tszyu, both of whom consistently seek out the toughest fights without hesitation. He said this guy acts, moves, talks, does everything. Like you want your fighters to move and act. This guy wants all the SM smoke. He doesn't avoid anyone.
Guys, the Canelo era is coming to a close. Crawford era is coming to a close. These guys are all leaving the sport. We have a vacuum. We have a hole for who is going to be the face and the star of the sport. David Benavidez is rushing headlong to try and be that guy.
He doesn't avoid any questions. He doesn't avoid calling out who he wants to fight. Algieri recalled that he had predicted Benz would eventually face David Morrell. He believed Benz's bold and straightforward approach made this fight inevitable for Algieri. The way Benavidez carries himself shows that he is unafraid to take on any challenge.
Benavidez has been through the fire. The only fire Benavidez ain't been through was the Canelo fire. You know what I mean? But everything that you can go through in boxing, getting knocked down, getting back up, finishing guys late, finishing guys early, keeping your composure, boxing, brawling. He been through all that.
Which led him to foresee this matchup happening. He continued, I actually predicted this fight happening a while ago, I said Benavidez. The way this guy talks, the way this guy moves, the way this guy acts on what he says. I could see him taking that David Morrell fight. Chris Algieri further elaborated on David Morrell's position in the boxing world, explaining why he often gets overlooked. Despite his talent, Morrell, according to Algieri, is an extremely skilled and dangerous fighter.
So, Benavidez, the only guy you were really looking at 168 besides Canelo, you were like, oh, you know what, Benavidez may be doing a little bit of the same games. He's not fighting Morrell. Boom, now he's fighting. Instead, in their primes, at their prime age, and when they're both at their most dangerous, they're taking each other on. Both of these guys should be commended for this fight.
But his relatively low profile makes him a high-risk, low-reward opponent. This creates a situation where only true boxing enthusiasts fully appreciate just how good Morrell really is. Chris Algieri commented on the changing landscape of boxing, noting that some of the sport's biggest stars like Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford were nearing the end of their careers with their eventual departure. There would be a void in the sport, leaving room for the next big name to step up and take the spotlight at 27. Benavidez has already accomplished a great deal in his career, but the move to 175 lbs marks a new chapter. The victory over Gizek earned him the WBC interim light heavyweight title and set the stage for bigger challenges in the division. He is currently ranked number 3 at light heavyweight by ESPN, and his upcoming bout with Morrell is expected to be his toughest test yet. Eddie Hearn shared his thoughts on David Morrell, acknowledging his high regard for the fighter. While Hearn admitted that Morrell's most recent performance didn't stand out, he still emphasized Morrell's skill and talent. He pointed out that despite Morrell's relatively low profile, he remains a dangerous opponent, making the fight against Benavidez a high-risk, low-reward situation. Hearn gave Benavidez credit for taking on such a challenging opponent. He said, "I've always rated Morrell very highly, but I didn't think he looked great last time out. But he's a very, very good fighter. And again, he doesn't have a huge profile, so it's a very, high-risk, low-reward for Benitez, but I have to give him props for fighting." David Morrell, 26, is also an undefeated fighter with an 11-0 record and 9 knockouts like Benav. Morrell recently moved up from 168 lb to 175 lb. In his light heavyweight debut, Morrell faced Ravo Kick in August 2024, earning a unanimous decision. Victory in what was the most challenging fight of his career. Morrell showed his skill and power in the fight, but he was unable to secure a knockout, leading some to question whether he is fully adjusted to the light heavyweight division. Morrell, a Cuban-born fighter, now based in the US, is ranked number 4 at light heavyweight by ESPN. He has long been seen as a rising star in the sport, but like Benavidez, he struggled to secure big fights at 168 lbs due to Alvarez's dominance of the division. Greg Hackett offered his perspective on David Morrell's development as a professional fighter. He acknowledged that while Morrell is skillful and has talent, he hasn't fully adjusted to the professional level yet. Hackett believed that although Morrell has some tricks up his sleeve, it wouldn't be enough to take on Benavidez, who has already faced significant challenges in the sport. He said Morrell hasn't adjusted to being a professional fighter all the way. He's a good professional fighter. He's skillful, he got some tricks with him, but it's not going to be enough for Benavidez. Hackett continued by praising Benz's experience in the ring. He highlighted the numerous challenges Benavidez had faced throughout his career, from getting knocked down and getting back up to finishing opponents early. And late, Hackett emphasized that Benavidez had proven himself in every aspect of the sport, except for facing Canelo, which he saw as the only test Benavidez hadn't yet encountered. Greg Hackett acknowledged that Morrell might have a strong start and look good in the early rounds. However, Hackett believed that, as the fight progressed, things would take a turn for the worse for Morrell. Due to the relentless pace Benavidez would impose on him, he added, "It's going to look good for Morrell first 3 rounds, but it's going to get bad for Morrell after that. I'm telling you, it's going to get bad. That rate, it's going to be the rate. He's not going to like that rate." Greg Hackett further elaborated on David Benavidez's fighting style, explaining how Benavidez knows when to strike and retreat, but also when to apply pressure.
This fight is that kind of fight. They're both in their primes, they're both at their best, and they're not waiting to let it marinate. There's nothing to let it marinate for.
If he senses his opponent is hurt, Hackett questioned whether Morrell had the same level of grit, noting that Morrell had yet to prove himself in a situation where he was truly tested in the ring. Benavidez and Morrell have both expressed their eagerness to face each other and their determination to come out on top. Benavidez, who has a reputation for his aggressive style and knockout power, has promised that the fight will be a banger. He reached out to Morrell and his team to make the fight happen, stating that he wanted to give his fans the best fight possible, in his own words. "There was a lot of names on the table, but I wanted to give my fans the best fight possible. I reached out to David Morrell and his team to make this happen, and we got the contract done. This fight really is going to be a banger. 2 of the best in the division and 2 titles on the line. The winner of this fight will not only gain the WBC interim title, but will also position themselves as a mandatory challenger for the BBIAB winner, a prospect that adds even more significance to this bout. The fight between Benavidez and Morrell is shaping up to be one of the most exciting matchups of 2024, with both men fighting for legacy glory, and a shot at becoming the undisputed light heavyweight champion. David Benitez went on to discuss the landscape of the 175B division, noting that there weren't many big names within PBC. At that weight class, he shared his hope that after his fight with Alexander, he could secure a unification bout for all the belts at 175 lb. Once that was accomplished, Benavidez hinted at his next move, which could involve defending his titles against David Morrell.